Hello everyone. This is a quick update video that I'm filming in June of 2020. So in our previous lesson, you and I finally completed our live search overlay feature. However, we wrote the code using jQuery. Now in my opinion, there's nothing inherently wrong with using jQuery, but in today's web development industry, there's definitely a demand for developers who can write JavaScript without jQuery. Because doing this allows our final bundled JavaScript file to be a good bit smaller than if we did use jQuery. This means faster download times for our visitors. So in this lesson, I want to show you a jQuery free version of our search overlay file. So this is our search.js file that we've been working on together, and this absolutely does use jQuery. However, if I switch to this window, this is a version of the search code that I've written off camera, and this does not use jQuery. You can find this file to download in the associated resources for this lesson. We're not going to walk through this character by character, line by line, but I am going to walk through the big differences in just a moment with you. For now though, right away I want to let you know that this file is a direct drop-in replacement for our other search.js file. So for example, I can just copy this entire file, and then back in the file that we've been working on, I can just delete everything in there, paste in my clipboard, hit save, and with my npm run dev command running in the command line, that's going to automatically bundle everything up. And back in the browser, I will manually refresh just to make sure that the event handlers for the search icon click are not doubling up. But if I open the search and search for biology, you can see that it works exactly the same. Only now my code is not relying on jQuery. So at this point, let's jump into the file, and I want to walk through from a bird's eye view the big differences that I made to the code. Right away, on line number 1, we see that I'm importing something named Axios. We will talk about Axios in just a moment. For now though, if we look inside the constructor, you can see that to select an element, instead of using the jQuery $ and then including a CSS-like selector, I'm instead just saying document.querySelector. And then again, you can use a CSS-like selector. So all modern web browsers offer this to us natively. We don't need an extra library or framework like jQuery. In addition to query selector, which will select the first instance of this element, we also have query selector all, which will return an array or a node list of all elements that match this selector. I used this because in our HTML, there are two different JS search trigger elements. There's one designed for desktops and then one designed for mobile devices. So this means that our property of open button is a collection or an array that contains multiple elements. So then down a bit in the events, you can see that here is that open button which contains multiple elements. I do need to manually loop through that array, and for each element in that collection, I'm manually adding an event listener. So that's one nice thing that jQuery does for us. In jQuery, you can select multiple elements and then you can sort of act on that variable as if it's just one element, and jQuery will do something to all of the elements in that collection for you. But as you can see, this is not a big deal. Doing this manually is not the end of the world. Next up, instead of using jQuery's on method for event listening, you can see I'm just using the JavaScript native add event listener. Moving on, for the most part, all of the code stayed exactly the same. If we continue to scroll down, here we see a big difference. So instead of using the jQuery method to send a request to a server, I'm now using something called Axios. So Axios is a popular package that has nothing to do with WordPress or jQuery or anything. It's just its own independent entity, but it's the industry standard for sending off HTTP requests. Technically, we could take things one step further, and instead of using Axios, you could just use the web browser's fetch API. But in my opinion, Axios makes our lives a lot easier. So with Axios, you just say axios.get, you give it a URL, and then it's going to return a promise. So that's why I have the word await here. That's going to make sure that JavaScript doesn't move on to the next line of code until this promise has completed, because we don't know how long it's going to take for the server to actually give us this result back. So I'm saving that in a variable named response. Once this actually finishes, then JavaScript will continue running the rest of our code. Instead of using a jQuery method to set the HTML for an element, you can just use the JavaScript or web browser native function of .innerHTML. Well, actually, it's not a function or a method, it's just a property, and we can manipulate its value here. Okay, moving on, if we scroll down, there's really not any other huge changes. I will point out that instead of using jQuery to add or remove a CSS class from an element, well, every modern web browser has something called class list that belongs to any HTML element, and then you can just say classlist.add or classlist.remove. So we don't need jQuery for that. And honestly, that's basically it for the whole file. Now again, I encourage you to download this file and drop it in and replace your existing search.js file. And if you're curious how I accomplished any of this without jQuery, just go ahead and dig through the code. I didn't refilm this entire previous chapter to use this jQuery free version because all of the concepts and principles stay exactly the same. It's just minor syntax differences here and there to utilize the web browser's native functionality, right, instead of the jQuery specific version. Anyways, I strongly encourage you to use this drop-in jQuery free replacement for our search.js module. It should make our overall JavaScript a bit more lightweight. And with that in mind, we're going to move on to the next chapter. Let's keep things rolling, and I'll see you then.